Your one click on the subscribe button makes a huge difference. Thank you for your kind support.
American Detective with Lieutenant Joe Kenda Season 5, Episode 4 delves into a dark and unsettling murder investigation involving the brutal killings of two individuals inside Sloopy's bar, with Detective Doyle Burke leading the charge. The episode reflects the complexities and challenges of homicide cases, illustrating not only the weight of solving such heinous acts but also the relentless determination required to ensure justice for the victims. What begins as another call during a hectic day filled with racial tensions in Dayton morphs into a labyrinthine investigation revealing the grim depths of human nature, trust betrayed, and the fallout of unchecked violence. The story begins with an indelible backdrop. Ohio's Dayton Police Department finds itself stretched thin with a Ku Klux Klan rally threatening civil unrest. Civil rights, race relations, and tensions unrelated to the eventual killings dominate the day. Against this electrified backdrop, Detective Doyle Burke and his partner are essentially relegated to standby in case a homicide arises. The call that evening pulls them into Sloopy's bar in the heart of the Oregon District, a bustling entertainment center where locals congregate to unwind. However, this beloved neighborhood bar now lies as the dismal scene of a double homicide. Upon entering the bar, Burke and his team are confronted with two male victims, executed with terrifying precision and malice. The first victim, Robert Napka, is found laying face down near the kitchen area by the walk-in freezer, his body severely battered. The intensity of the attack is reflected in the 17 to 18 brutal blows to the back of Napka's head, inflicted by an unidentified object. This kind of overkill unmistakably points to a crime of passion. The concentrated strikes suggest deep anger or some profoundly personal animosity between the perpetrator and the victim. This deduction is further reinforced by the positioning of Napka when he was attacked. Napka most likely trusted his attacker enough to turn his back, an act evidencing prior familiarity, or at least the absence of imminent suspicion. What emerges from this picture is that Napka had reason to allow someone he knew into the bar, calmly leading him inside before being overtaken and viciously slain. Moving slightly further into the scene, the detectives discover the second victim, who is similarly executed with a disturbingly similar pattern of violence. He lies face down atop his coat, bearing signs of the same relentless barrage to the back of his head. The autopsy would later confirm that this victim sustained no fewer than 19 blows, indicating once again a ferocity that underscores a personal vendetta or uncontained rage. What sets the overkill apart in these homicides is not only its barbarity, but its hint at a deeper emotional element, suggesting that the perpetrator felt compelled to unleash his devastation without restraint. Importantly, this victim's identity is soon revealed as Frank Ferraro, identified after the discovery of his wallet hidden behind a toilet tank in the restroom. This irregularity, the conscious act of stashing the wallet away, raises many questions in Burke's mind. From a criminal psychological standpoint, this act could imply an additional layer of premeditation or even a calculated effort to mislead investigators as to the victim's identity or connection to the scene. As articulated by Detective Burke and ultimately narrated by Lieutenant Joe Kenda, solving homicide cases is equal parts science and art. Critical to any investigation is maintaining an open mind and interpreting not only the physical evidence, but also the meaning behind the clues. This initial discovery is rich with implications. For example, the manner of execution, blunt force trauma to the backs of the heads, suggests a desire for dominance, control, and calculated elimination. The killer's weapon of choice is not immediately apparent at the scene, indicating the murder weapon was likely removed to delay forensic conclusions. Beyond the physical evidence, the overkill coupled with proximity implies both familiarity and betrayal, as such raw displays of violence are rarely carried out by strangers against strangers. The detectives ask pivotal questions. Why were these two men killed with such fury? Why was Ferraro's wallet hidden? The wallet's positioning suggests someone who either panicked after the murders or sought to manipulate or obscure identification efforts. The timeline of events soon clarifies their movements leading up to the attack. Witness statements reveal that both Napka and Ferraro were last seen alive entering the bar earlier. However, there's little indication anyone else besides the perpetrator accompanied them. Investigative groundwork thus begins centering on Napka and Ferraro's personal lives, relationships, and disputes, seeking the proverbial thread that could unravel the story. Both victims are inherently complex characters. Napka, described by acquaintances as affable and business-savvy, had ties to various entrepreneurial pursuits but, as sometimes happens, also garnered jealousy from professional rivals who may have viewed him as cunning or opportunistic. This layer introduces one possible motivation: business entanglements spiraling out of control. Ferraro, on the other hand, is characterized as quieter but steadfastly loyal to his friend Napka. This partnership between them becomes central to the investigation, as where there are business dealings and interpersonal connections, there are usually fractured allegiances and potential enemies. Detectives make it a priority to map out their known business associates, uncovering any unresolved disputes that could have boiled over into lethal consequences. Cracking such a case inherently involves weaving circumstantial evidence into a coherent narrative. What develops becomes less a series of coincidences and more an inevitable destination reached after Napka's and Ferraro's decisions and associations. The investigators focus extensively on wiretaps and witness testimony, seeking the raw truths unavailable through the rigid details of forensics alone. Technology, too, becomes indispensable. Phone records and surveillance systems are scoured for patterns, anomalies, or inconsistencies that might pinpoint individuals whose actions or whereabouts did not align. This process becomes critical in identifying individuals who stood to gain from their deaths or nursing grievances substantial enough to drive them toward acts of murder. As days bleed into weeks, financial ties come under sharper scrutiny. While both victims maintained multifaceted careers and mingled in entrepreneurial circles, potential motives begin to emerge from enemies growing out of such lucrative ventures. One suspect, whose prior clashes with Napka were rumored among colleagues, enters the radar. This individual, a former associate harboring long-standing grudges, falls under careful review after wiretapped conversations reveal boastful remarks seemingly alluding to knowledge of the crime. The remorseless tone, coupled with details only a closely involved party could know, hooks Detective Burke deeper into this suspect's tapestry of deception. Character study emerges as one of the episode's storytelling strengths. Nowhere here, it seems, are accidental killers or heat-of-the-moment perpetrators. Instead, we are shown worlds where deliberate calculation rules behaviors, adding chilling layers to the narrative's psychological edge. As Detective Kenda emphasizes throughout his series, humanity's darker impulses often emerge in acts irrationally justified, whether by greed, revenge, ego, or fury. Here, the perpetrator's assumption of having escaped accountability exemplifies hubris, the idea that their crime, enacted cleverly or violently enough, erased loose ends. Such arrogance betrayed him. Moments before capture, his failure to evade wiretap evidence and maintain alibis exposes the error underestimating law enforcement competence. What's implied thematically therefore extends beyond mere procedural drama. It critiques overconfidence veiling immorality. This exploration underscores American detectives' philosophical undertones cautioning criminals' false projections of al.